Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey guys, thank you for joining me on this morning talk. So today I wanted to talk about a subject that is kind of a hard subject to talk about. But one of my longtime followers over on Facebook, brought this subject up and was questioning, why I never talk about it. And I actually have. I've done at least one. I've done 3 videos on it. 2 were like basically on the same subject, but not titled it. And I told him, I was like, look, I have done videos. I even sent him a link to one of the videos, but it's a subject I don't like to think about. And what am I talking about? It's about, is this whole system a sort of reincarnation trap or a soul trap? And as you can surmise, it's kind of a dark subject to think about, and I don't like to dwell on it, and that's why I don't talk about it that much. But I've got to admit, folks, I have thought about this, and I've actually thought deeply about this subject. And so we'll go ahead and take a dive down this now. And look, for some background context for those that have no clue what I'm even talking about. Well, first, you've got to go do some research on NDEs and OBEs, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences. That's kind of a baseline to work with from there. And then, of course, ancient religions and everything else ties into this, our modern structures, and exactly what they're doing to us today. So this is actually a very, very deep rabbit hole, folks. And this may just be a part 1. We may need to pick this up tomorrow. And just today, just so you guys know, it's Halloween. All Hallows Eve, right? Good old ancient, pagan stuff that's gone back for, thousands of years. And here we are still celebrating these holidays, as our ancestors did. But I hope you guys have a good Halloween. So maybe today this is a good subject to talk about this. So, like I said, you got to do some research into NDEs and OBEs. That gives you your baseline if you have no clue on what this is even about. And you'll find in NDEs and OBEs that people often talk about when they're out of the body, that all of a sudden they're in full consciousness, they're in full ability. It's like some say that they still have a body, some say they don't. However, the senses are like superpower, like like super hero level, abilities. Like your eyesight, for instance, goes to an eyesight where you can have a 360 degree view. And which is interesting, is if you look at a lot of the ancient texts, it always shows these beings with like eyes all over them, right? Like they can see every direction. In fact, sometimes Yahweh was portrayed as a being with, thousands of eyes, because God could see everything you're doing all the time, right? Well, it's interesting because NDEers talk about this, and now it's not like you could see everything all at once, and that's you can focus on a direction, So just understand that, right? It's not like the whole time you're in the out-of-body state that you have this view, which could get disorientating, let's be honest, right? I mean, you're looking around 360 degree view and and you're not used to that, but they say you could still focus. And not only that, folks, they say it's like your eyesight's insane. It's like you can focus in your eyesight so that you can see like a microscope, or you can see super far like a telescope. So just understand, this is like super sight, right? And then they say the hearing is insane. They say your hearing is so good on the other side that you could literally hear of course, and this is in the out of body. This is out of body off Earth, right? Or at least a different dimension from the third dimension. But they say you can even hear the plants, the animals, the trees. It's like they have like a symphony. Like everything has a sound resonance to it. So you have super hearing, super sight, and you can still touch and feel. And in fact, your touch and feel is advanced. And movement. You don't even have to walk. You can walk still in the out-of-body state, or you can just think yourself where you want to go and you just teleport there. So it's a lot of interesting stuff that people talk about when they're in the NDE and OBE state. Also, another major one is your mind or your, it's not really your mind, because that's more or less your brain, which in the out-of-body state, you're not relying on a brain any longer. You're pure consciousness that connected into the Akashic field, into the universal knowledge. And they say that when you're in that state, you know everything. It's like anything you think of, you get instant information. And it's not just information like somebody's telling you or you're reading it from a book. It's like you get the complete understanding of it. You know how it works. You know the thinking behind it, why, how it was started, created. I mean, for what purposes? Like everything. It's like everything's wrapped into that thought, right? It's not just somebody telling you, well, this is what this is and this is how it works. It's like, no, you understand it to the very core, its complete core. And then also you have telepathy in the out-of-body state. You can speak words audibly. However, they say most of the time you realize that the easiest way to communicate is this like telepathy. And it's not just telepathy, it's like you feel the other people's emotions. You read their emotions, their thoughts, like you know everything about their past lives, everything about their spirit. It's like they say in the spirit realm, there is no hidden things. There are no secrets. Everything is known to all because all is connected. Everyone is connected, all consciousness. And everybody is directly connected with the source, God, whatever you want to call it. So just so you guys understand this background, look, I got to build some background here before we really dive in, okay? So this is all well known. So what does that tell us about the human body and the brain? Well, folks, it tells you that when you incarnate on Earth into a human body, that you are limited. That literally you are limited. Like that the brain is a limiter. That it's a type of receiver, right? That receives frequencies, and it basically limits those, like, for what your abilities would be outside of the body, it limits those abilities in the body. So you're limited to the body's, mechanical senses, right? Of touch, feel, smell. It's almost like everything in this realm is a shadow of the higher realm, of the higher dimensions. So the body is actually a type of, God, I hate to use this word, but it's like a container. It's like almost like a prison. Because once you're in this, until you pass and the spirit leaves the body again, the consciousness, the conscious energy, right, leaves the body. When you're immersed into this body, when you're connected into it, when you're connected through the pineal gland, right, the seat of the soul, which sits in the middle of the brain, and the brain is the brain. See, the left, the mainstream materialist scientists will tell you that the brain creates consciousness, right? Well, that's a lie, folks. The brain is an operating system, okay? The brain is an operating system that operates the human body, which is an organic machine. Okay, it's a construct. And it was constructed out of all of these different elements of Earth. I mean, we have parts of every type of species on Earth. Well, not every species, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we have a mammalian brain, we have a reptilian brain, our skin sheds like reptiles, our body has fur like mammals. I mean, you know, the female reproductive system is closer to a mammal's, but we also have aspects of fish, of aquatic animals, I mean, of insects. I mean, we have all these, I mean, like, your skin raises when you know, like an antenna, you know, when you get, like, your senses get alarmed, you know, that's actually tied to your sixth sense, actually. And, you know, the body is a construct of this realm, of the elements of this realm. And it's not just the animals, you know, the species of this realm it's created from. It's created from the elements, you know, earth, fire, water, air, right? The lungs, air, you know, the blood, water. I mean, we could go on and on, you know. Obviously the heart and stuff is tied to, like, you know, to fire. So, look, folks, the body is a construct, okay? The spirit is not. The spirit is a consciousness. And for it to immerse itself into this lower dimension, it has to limit its abilities, because in this dimension, it is not constructed to allow for those abilities. Well, let's just say sometimes the masters can break the matrix, right? And can expand on these abilities. You know, you've heard of the yogis that can levitate, Yeshua, right? Yeshua was a mastered the art of, you know, healing by touch, which is a type of Reiki, right? A lot of these masters have been able to break, you know, kind of hack the matrix and bring in more of those abilities from the higher dimensions and kind of push past the limits of the body, right? So it can be done, but for the most part, 99.99% of us are all limited heavily by the brain and the body, by the senses of the body, by the mechanical construct of the body. Now, the question is, why is that? Why is that, folks? Well, I would direct you to read the Atrahasis cuneiform tablet, which is 3,700 years old. And now, I want you guys to understand, this is a newer version of it. They know there's older fragments of the same tablet that goes back even further. This is, of course, the Babylonian version of the much older tablets. Look, folks, people don't understand. There's thousands of years between Sumer and Babylon and Assyria, okay? I mean, think about that. It's like the difference between us and Rome, okay? So a lot can happen in 2,000 years. So the fact that the Babylonians were still rewriting these ancient tablets, these stories like the Enuma Elish and the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Atrahasis, and they have fragments of much older tablets going back to Sumer and Akkad. Okay? So just understand this context, folks. Like, look, you can't understand what I'm going to teach you here about this whole thing if you don't understand the basis. But the Atrahasis plainly explains that these higher dimensional beings called the Council of Anuna, you would know them by the newer term, the Anunnaki, that these beings created the human avatar body to be a worker slave class race for these beings. And why was that? Well, their own working class, called the Igigi, they were like their working class, and they were rebelling against their labors. So they rebelled, and they petitioned their rulers, the royal Anunnaki class, and petitioned them to help them. And so what did they do? Well, they came up with the idea of creating a new species. And what did they do? Well, this is all in the tablets, folks. They literally explain how they went and they found hominids that were like wild men living on the earth, that were grazing with the animals, with the antelopes, right? And living in caves, and they were like wild men, hairy men. They called them the dark-headed men. And they took some of these species. They probably found some of the best ones they could find, specimens, right? And then they genetically upgraded. They mixed their DNA with this species to give it an upgrade. This is not woo-woo angels, like spiritual beings flying around, folks, like mixing. These were flesh and blood, third-dimensional beings. Now, I want you guys to understand, look, the Anunnaki they were flesh and blood beings. Now, they were types of avatars themselves. This is where Christians get so confused over this. They're like, no, their angels don't have bodies. Well, how did the angels sleep with women? Did they just magically materialize a male member so that they could get a woman pregnant? Folks, my God. Okay? Start using your brains, man. I mean, yeah, look, whatever, connect to the Akashic Record, whatever you got to do, start thinking, okay? Use something, common sense, if anything. Look at these old stories, folks. What are they telling you, okay? I mean, it's so funny because those are the fallen angels. Like, that's all people like yell, demons, fallen angels. Well, folks, if you go read Genesis, it says, come, let us make man in our image after our likeness. It never says in God's image. It always says the gods. Who are these gods? Well, if you go read the Acher Hasis, it's the Council of Anuna. Okay? The Anunnaki. I mean, folks, this is not hard to connect. Genesis is an adaptation off of the much older cuneiform stories. Okay, so those of you that listen to me a lot, you guys already know all this. And look, those of you that have researched these things, you already know all this. But talking to Christians and like really religiously indoctrinated people is like talking to a brick wall. They just don't get it. You know, they'll talk, angels aren't physical beings like the Anunnaki. Those were the Nephilim. Oh, angels are like Gabriel and Michael. They're like, they're like spirits. Oh, but yet then they can come have sex with women. I swear, man. These people, dude. It's just... Okay, now look, folks. The Nephilim, so you understand, were a later mixture between these Anunnaki and their human hybrids that they created. Now look, folks, when I say the Anunnaki created humans, I'm not saying that they created humans from scratch. Okay? Obviously, they took hominids that were already on the earth and they mixed their DNA. They hybridized them, okay? So people always get caught up on that too. No, God only could create people. You know, the angels didn't create nothing. They just, corrupted humans. Well, yeah, they mixed their DNA with our DNA. We have Anunnaki DNA, folks. We all do. Now, later on, as they created this human race, some of the Anunnaki started taking them for concubines and wives. Because, why not, right? They're like their little S slaves, if you get my meaning, right? Is there any difference to this day how people like treat each other with the trade going on around the world? You know what I'm talking about, right? Ukraine's heavy in that. I hope you guys all know. And same thing going on today, just the powerful use the weaker, right? And then, so then they had children. Later, more mixing of the blood. Now, this is where the Nephilim came from, folks. The Anunnaki are not the Nephilim. I mean, I don't understand why people can't figure this out. It's not that hard to follow the timelines here, okay? But anyways, folks. So now you guys got the basis, okay? The human body was created by these beings to be a slave worker race here on Earth, okay? Now, one key thing before we move on. So you understand, in the Atrahasis, it clearly explains how they had to sacrifice one of the Anunnaki. They were experimenting on how to get these these human bodies to operate, okay? Because look, they don't create souls. Souls come from the source, from God, okay? So they sacrificed one of their own, and they moved his spirit incarnated into the first Adam. Or they would call him Adapa. Okay? And gave life to it. The Anunnaki understood that you have to have source consciousness, source energy, spirit, soul. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it, folks, okay? To animate a body. Okay? Because the body's a construct of this realm, folks. Spirit consciousness comes from higher dimensions. So they understood this. They explained this. And once they moved the spirit of the slain Anunnaki into the human hybrid body, it came to life. Okay? And then you can cross-reference this all with Genesis. Like I said, Genesis clearly explains that it's not God, that it's the gods that created the human hybrid, okay, folks? And by created, I mean they hybridized it. They didn't create it from scratch. They took what was already on the earth and they upgraded it, okay? And once again, like I said, the Nephilim came from later on breeding between those humans and those same Anunnaki. That's where you got the half-human children like these pharaohs in Egypt, where they say they were the children of the gods, and you had the, Gilgamesh, and you had freaking God. Sorry, guys. Somebody just took my park spot. That's pretty cool. Dang it. Sorry. I'm typically one of the first ones that gets to work, because I like to get to work, get crap done, and get home as soon as I can, because I get tired of the hamster wheels, as all of you probably do too. And anyways, somebody got here a little earlier today and they grabbed my normal spot, so whatever. But anyways, so I just look, folks, I'm already at work. We're not even getting really into the whole reincarnation trap stuff yet, but you got to have the background first, because it all matters, okay? So we'll get into this more tomorrow, but I need you guys to understand, okay, something. This realm is not what you think it is, okay? This realm, your body, is not what you think it is. These beings have had a grip on humanity for a long time, and they control this realm to this day still. And I want you guys to understand, look, if your body was created to hold your spirit here, and while you're in this world, you're in a lower dimension, so you're caught up in duality, polarities between light and dark, good and bad, right? See, in our higher dimensions, there is no sin, folks, because you're vibrating at a higher level, and there's no negative energies allowed in the higher dimensions. They're only allowed in these lower dimensions. And so when you come to Earth, and this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Do we choose to come to Earth? Were we forced to come to Earth? Is this a classroom? Is this a prison? Is this a farm? Now, when you do pass, are you allowed to go to the higher dimensions? Are you allowed to truly make a choice? Or are you tricked and basically just sent right back to Earth to be reharvested, reused, right? to continue on your labors for these Anunnaki overlords that rule this realm from behind the scenes through their human bloodline children. Now that's what will be coming up in the next. This might end up being like a multi-part series, folks. And I get it. Some of you are gonna be upset. Like you listen to this whole 20 some minutes, and you're like, this dude never even got onto the sun. No, you got to understand the background. You got to. This is a heavy subject, folks. So we got to start at ground level. But please understand, you got to look at the beginning of humankind to get a baseline, right? And you got to understand, you need to do some research into NDEs and OBEs, because what we're going to be talking about in the next episode or two is going to be tied in with all of this. And I don't have time to go into detail about everything, but I needed to clearly explain the beginning, because apparently nobody, look, folks, all these Christians that attack me every single day, it's the same bullshit. Oh, you believe in that Zechariah Sitchin Masonic guy, right? Oh, you're an acolyte of Billy Carson. Oh, Wes Huff already blew Billy Carson out the water, and you're an idiot like him. I mean, it's like, oh, don't you know those are the demons? Blah, 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 the fallen angels. I mean, fallen angel. That's all I ever hear, dude. Fallen angel. Fools, what do you think you are? You came from a higher dimension, and you're in a lower dimension. You're a fallen angel, you fool. God. My God, people, wake up. I mean, you're literally, like I said, when you're out of the body, you're in your true source power, right? You're fully connected in with source, with the universe. You're outside of this construct, and you're outside of the limitations of the body and the brain in this dimension. Things change majorly once you're out of the body, okay? So look, none of these people that throw these stupid diatribes at me have actually ever read the Atrahasis or any of the ancient cuneiform. They actually literally believe that the Bible is older than the cuneiform. They don't even understand that the oldest Paleo-Hebrews may be pushing 700-800 BC. That's it, folks. We're talking about tablets that go back as old as 4000 BC. Think about that. Think about that, folks. But these people are... I mean, look, most of your religions, folks, come from older sources, but they were remixed, readapted, and reformed and mixed with other belief systems around. There's a golden period that's about 500 BC to about 300 AD. That's when most of your Christianity, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Mithraism, Sol Invictus worship, Platonism. I mean, that's where all these different belief systems were they were all traded along the Silk Road and the Mediterranean Sea, right? And through the Fertile Crescent. Those were where most of the world's populations mixed and merged and, and traded ideas and sold and bought and all that. So that's where all of that stuff was all mishmashed together. Now, what we're talking about is much older sources that came before all that. And look, a lot of the same symbolism, Paleo-Sumerian or cuneiform, is showing up in Göbekli Tepe now, in the Tepes, which goes back to 12,000 years now, 13,000 years. So think about this, folks. Look, even the Sumerian and Akkadian accounts are obviously passed down stories from much older times. We're barely scratching the surface, folks, but I'm giving you a better baseline to go off of than what you're going to get from these churches or anything else. So, anyways, guys, I got to go, though. I'm already running late. It's Halloween. I want to get done early, go home, watch some movies. I might watch some zombie movies. Those are my favorites. The old George Romero, the classic zombie movies, right? Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead and all that. So, Dawn of the Dead. I might watch some of those today, just for old time's sake. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a great Halloween. Stay tuned. Look, we're going to go deep into this, okay, folks? And I'd love to hear your thoughts, okay? Look, I actually listen to what people say. Like I said, this is all based off of one of my longtime followers on Facebook, and he's usually critical of me, and that's fine. But he made me get to thinking about this, and he's like, he's right. I haven't talked about this subject for a while, so we're going to do the deep dive in it, and it may take 2, 3, 4 parts maybe, because we're barely even getting the baseline set, So, anyways, hey guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. If you're interested in doing a one-on-one Zoom with me, I always put the in the descriptions underneath the the comments here. I always put information on that if you're interested in that. So, but yeah, besides that, guys, hey, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.